This is not a course in business ethics, is it? It's a course in professional ethics. But I do teach business ethics, and I couldn't help thinking, looking over this week's material, and especially with regard to Chris's problem, with the overhang at the entrance of this new hotel that his firm has worked on, the Asmara, totally fictional, of course. But couldn't help thinking of a case that I had read with a business ethics class recently from the 1980s involving the Beechnut Company, who at that time had been bought out by a much larger global corporation, the Nestle Corporation. It was under tremendous pressure to show profitability, and as a result sold some apple juice, baby food apple juice, that actually contained no juice whatsoever and was falsely labeled. And the head of Beechnut, in his own defense, such as it was, said there were the only choices were to go ahead and do this and therefore reap the profits and stay in business, or to go out of business, to have the company basically wiped out. What I would call an existential decision, in the sense that this guy was saying either the company could cheat its customers or it could go out of business. And of course there's no ethical defense, but I think that it points up some of the real world pressures that people are under, and I think certainly it is relevant here in the discussion of Chris's problem. There is a very interesting real world parallel, I think, to this, which is described in one of the boxes, having to do with the Citicorp building, in which the architect of that building, I believe he's an architect, is informed that a building that he's already put up is potentially unsafe, and has to decide what to do about that. And it's a very kind of encouraging story, if I can find it, in which the architect realizes that he has only one choice, really, ethical choice, and that is to let everybody know that this building is hundreds of millions of dollars, one would imagine, went into the building of this structure, and to inform everyone that it's unsafe and that certain things need to be done to make it safe for the public. Yes, it's talking about what's going on in box 4.12. Yeah, really, it's not an architect, it's a structural engineer, William J. Lemercier, or Lemessurier. In any case, this guy, when he is sort of prodded to think about the safety of the building by an engineering student, realizes that it poses an unacceptable risk to the public, and then goes ahead and fixes it, and informs everyone, and it's fixed and it's made safe. Chris is in a similar position where something has already been built, and he or she has grave doubts about the safety of the thing. Really does not come up to any kind of standard of acceptable risk to the public, and has to decide what to do. And it's really informed by his boss, Joe, the non-engineer, that if they were to come clean to the client about this and tell them that the thing has to basically be torn down and rebuilt, but in any case that a terrible blunder was made in the design of this thing, and that there's just no way that it can be made ready by the opening date of the hotel, that if they were to come clean, that they would basically be finished as a firm, that this our fictional engineering firm, Pines, would simply have to give up, because no one would ever hire them again. It would be over. So it was similar to the Beechnut case in the 1980s, I guess, insofar as the threat to the firm is existential. So the firm will go out of existence unless this thing is done. Of course, that really, in a way, is completely for at least the way that the codes are written. And we look at the ASCE code, it would seem that there is nothing there that would give Chris any wiggle room, or Joe, but Joe's not an engineer, give Chris any wiggle room in terms of what he should do. However, we do have this seeming conflict in the canons of the ASCE code between holding paramount, or protecting as a first principle the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and on the other hand, acting as a faithful agent or trustee of one's client or employer. Now, some of the authors that we've read have seen a real conflict in that. Others have not, in the sense that they have argued that the hold paramount canon is just that. It's paramount. That is, the health, safety, and welfare of the public, if it's held paramount, would be held above all else. And there's no mention of, you know, an allowance or an exception to risk the health, safety, and welfare of the public if it is required in order to stay in business, or even to stay in the profession, you know, as an individual, to continue practicing. There's nothing that points in that direction, that kind of wiggle room. And I think that the, you know, according to the authors of this book, that there's no wiggle room either, that the name of the book is Hold Paramount, and that sends a message that the health, safety, and welfare of the public has to be protected, no matter what. There's nothing more important than that. But in the real world, I would suppose that we find ourselves in situations where we're under tremendous pressure to ignore principles like that. So what sort of position is Chris in? This is something that he or she has not built. And he or she has run what seems to be a quick analysis of the structural integrity of this overhang, which indicates that the factor of safety is less than 1, I think, which is, I'm not an engineer, but I know that that's bad. So it has this knowledge that perhaps there is unacceptable a hazard posed to the public, and has to decide what to do. Now, first of all, it seemed to me that in discussions of this when I first signed this book, that one of the issues that simply had to come up is the uncertainty of it all. That is, that you see in one of the study questions I asked you whether Chris is sure that this overhang will fail. And of course, that question is rather obvious. The answer to that question is rather obvious. Of course, he's not sure. No one could be sure that this thing will actually fail. But in a way, that's not the point. I mean, no one is sure of much in terms of complex structures or complex products, like something like that. But what he seems to be sure of is that the risk is unacceptable. But again, does not know for sure, and would need the cooperation of other engineers to really come to a firm judgment about this thing, but has strong suspicions. So what sort of position is he in? He can do what he actually does in the book, which is all but ignore it. That is, refuse to be a part of it anymore, but to just simply be taken off the project. It's assigned to another engineer, and he keeps quiet. And that is definitely something that you can do, and we may, and I think most of us would, just reflexively condemn him for that, or her for that. That is, that way of dealing with the thing is not sufficient. That it certainly doesn't seem to come to the level of the kind of duty that the code requires of him to hold paramount the safety of the public. But what are his alternatives at that point? He has informed his employer of his opinion on the danger. He's pretty much done all he can within the firm, it would seem to me, to get something done. And really, his only alternative, and this is obviously something that he realizes himself, is to blow the whistle. Goes to a lawyer and explores the different ways that he could handle this by going outside the firm to another authority, which could be local government, which could be the engineering society, which could be the media, I suppose. But to somehow or another bring this to the attention of the public that would presumably be at risk, and fulfillment of the duty that the code imposes. And again, that would seem in a way to be a no-brainer to go ahead and do that. That is, that it would seem to be an obvious requirement that he is beholden to. On the other hand, again, in the real world, there are consequences, real consequences to this sort of thing. Whistleblowing, again, in business ethics, is variously viewed as a heroic act, courageous act on the part of an individual who's willing to go against forces much stronger than him or her to fulfill their duty to protect the public, or it's viewed as a kind of a betrayal of trust. I mean, in sort of the most crude way of describing it, snitching, which is for some reason looked down upon. And we all grew up in the schoolyard, so maybe those influences are still there. But in any case, it would seem that whistleblowing, bringing things outside the firm, is exactly what is required of Chris. However, in the real world, whistleblowers are not always regarded as heroes. Whistleblowers do not always come out at the end of it with their careers intact, with their financial lives intact. People can be ruined by whistleblowing. They can become unemployable, in the sense they can get blacklisted, and they can be destroyed. And there is that risk. That is, there's a huge risk. There's a huge potential price to be paid for going against these forces. And you can imagine the discouragement, not on the part of his own firm, but his client and all the forces that are pushing towards the opening of this hotel on time. So this week there's some other ethical issues that are ethical situations. The one having to do with Chris is writing a report about the safety of a manufacturing plant, which would seem again to be a straightforward issue that he should just write it according to his professional opinion. But there are other matters that may be militating against that. So yes, this issue having to do with the structure is really the center of the book, I think. I mean, it does reemerge eventually. I mean, we forget about it for a while, but it will reemerge and raises all sorts of issues about professional practice, duty to the public, the heart of the code, the whole Paramount, but also some of the real-world concerns that might dissuade an individual engineer from actually upholding that.